This is Krista Michener. Welcome back to Made to Be Whole. Today, we're going to do a 2024 countdown, the top 12 Mitchener family health hacks of 2024. Stay tuned. Made to Be Whole is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to replace the advice or care of a licensed healthcare professional. Participating in this podcast does not constitute a provider-patient relationship with Krista Michener, AHP Integrative Health, or any of the guests featured on Made to Be Whole. Krista Michener, AHP Integrative Health, and any featured guests aren't responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from use of information obtained in this podcast or associated materials. Please consult a healthcare professional for any health-related concerns that you are experiencing. Welcome back to Made to Be Whole. This is Krista. In honor of my husband, who is a sucker for a countdown and spends the last week of December every year finding every music countdown that he can, we're going to do a countdown of my family's favorite health discoveries and health hacks of 2024. So these are not really any particular order. A handful of them are things that I have changed that have made a big difference. And then I did a little survey of my family members, and I'm going to share what they thought was helpful. And it was interesting because with some of them I could have guessed, but others it wasn't. So it was great feedback. Number 12. Krista loves hormone replacement therapy. I think it is the bomb. It's something I resisted for a while. It got such a bad rap in the 90s and early 2000s. And there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of studies that were misinterpreted and misquoted. But hormone replacement therapy can be a super important part, not just of healthy aging, function other time in life. I have started to check hormone levels on patients of all ages because I will not infrequently find a younger person who has really messed up progesterone or a younger male whose body is just not producing testosterone and they're fighting an uphill battle. So hormone replacement therapy is fantastic. How that's taken shape in our family, I wear an estradiol patch, which has helped my pain and stiffness tremendously. We have estrogen receptors on our tendons, so getting that fueled up is helpful. I take progesterone at bedtime. If you're postmenopausal, especially, you can't take estrogen without having progesterone too. You have to have both of them. That's helped with sleep quality. My son, I've mentioned before, my oldest, he has very, very low testosterone, and he who's terrified of needles every week is like, it's time for my shot. He does an injection of testosterone. It's helped cognitive function and energy. My husband's over 50. His testosterone's not great. He instead is taking a medication that boosts testosterone production 3 days a week and has had good success for that. So the Mitcheners love hormone replacement. It's not for everybody. There's some people that are sensitive. A lot of it has to do with form and dose, though. Fortunately, there are a lot more providers out there that are doing really good science-based things with hormone replacement therapy. It shouldn't be hard for you to put in a hormone replacement therapy near me search on your search engine and find some good options. Number 11, this is from me and Daniel, would be quelching cortisol and, as he said, the VEEVs, and I'll tell you a little more about that. When I did genetic testing, I realized that I am really prone to kind of overproduce cortisol. And I added on one of the VEEVs for me. This is another orthomolecular product. I really, really like them. Not available online, but you're able to call our office, 330-804-7000. We could get it sent out, and we are going private label with them later next year, and we'll be able to sell it online that way. But Adrenavive has a blend of adaptogenic botanicals and nutrients that are specifically formulated to counteract the effects of daily stress and to support healthy energy levels, especially to balance cortisol and DHEA. So anxiety is such a ubiquitous yet nebulous word. Anxiety we use to describe a lot of things, but can mean so many different things. And I realized that sometimes midday, I have a cortisol spike, which feels like anxiety, just kind of this tension and rigidity. And taking Adrenavive has helped me tremendously. I love it. Daniel takes Adrenavive and another orthomolecular product called Cerevive, Cerebive. It's formulated to support a positive mental outlook and a relaxed, focused state. It includes amino acid precursors and bioactive nutrients that support healthy levels of neurotransmitters, such as GABA, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. So, when you've got your neurotransmitters more balanced, you're going to be able to sleep better. Your memory is going to be better. I asked him if he could describe to me, like, specifically why the Vibes were high on his list and what they did for him, and he just said it's really subtle, but he feels like his thinking's more clear. He just feels a little more regulated and in sync. The next one, Eric and I have hit hard. The kids are using some, is the vibration plate, which I absolutely love. I've mentioned it before. You can buy them anywhere, just search vibration plate, look for reviews. But what I love it for is multifactorial. First of all, I really do like what it does for detoxification, especially with lymph detox. You can feel a difference with helping lymph move. I like it for that. I also love it because I sit a lot at my job, and sitting a lot is not good for your brain. It's not good for your body. I find that by having my vibration plate here, sometimes I'll stand and use it when I'm working between patients or taking a break. But I have it under my desk and I run it a lot, especially when I'm on telehealth. It's just moving the lower body, obviously. But I find that the physical movement helps mental focus. It helps me be more alert because we're like facilitating blood flow even when we're in this sedentary state. So the vibration plate's great. We've got one at home and Eric and I both have one in our offices. My number 9, and some of my family was better at this before 2024, but 2024 is when I started using my infrared sauna daily, and it's been tremendous. Oh, we talked a little bit about the sauna when we talked about pain management, but I like it for a multitude of reasons. First of all, it helps blood flow, it wakes me up, it helps with mental focus. It helps anxiety. I notice that I breathe deeper naturally when I'm in the sauna. And for me, doing something every day is really the only way it's ever going to get done. I am not someone who's great about having these Monday, Wednesday, Friday habits. My body just likes routine. And creating a daily routine that starts with the sauna has helped me quite a bit with pain, movement, mood, and also just a general sense of starting my day caring for my body. The next two, number 8 and 7, I pair with that. Number 8 is daily exercise. Again, for years, I've tried to have an exercise pattern, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this 3 days a week or 5 days a week." Now, I just try to do it every day. You get up, you get in the sauna, and then I like to walk outside when it's nice outside, but it's not nice outside right now. I get on my treadmill, I walk a mile. It's nothing amazing, but it makes a huge difference, again, with pain, anxiety, mental and physical energy. It's hard to start, the first couple weeks you do it, you're making yourself do it, and it's just not fun, and then your body starts to crave it, you feel better. Number 7, is something that I also pair with this morning routine would be my daily devotional. I pray every morning. I typically in the sauna, I read my scriptures because I've got one of those portable saunas that your arms can stick out of and your head, and so I'm in a still place and I read then. And the combination of these practices and doing them first thing in the morning to start my day, I feel like has been really transformative in my mental and physical health. You're saying to yourself and to the people around you that you matter, your health matters. And by doing it early in the day, you've laid that foundation. It's a lot easier to take care of the other people and other demands that come. Number 6 is microgen testing. So microgen is a really, really cool company. Their website is microgendx.com. So MICROGENDX.com. Discovering and using this has been a game changer for my practice. So, when you're checking for infections, most of the time, if you have someone who decides to send off urine or sputum or a skin swab, but they're just doing a culture. And so the culture is waiting for the bacteria to grow out. They identify it, they test it. What Microgen does that is unique is it is DNA diagnostics, it's PCR testing where they're looking for the DNA of the pathogens, and it's much, much more sensitive. It's helped me realize a complexity in the world of infectious disease that I was not introduced to previously. Typically, if you give a urine and there's multiple pathogens, they just say, oh, it's a dirty sample. You didn't wipe well enough. It's always the woman's fault. She didn't wipe well enough. And so that's why we have this dirty sample. When in reality, it could be there are multiple pathogens because there's a multi pathogen infection there. And it's a bunch of low level things that combine to make a big mess. So this helps us actually break down and identify what's there, and then it looks at sensitivity. So, which medications will this infection respond to? Which medications is there resistance to? I use it for UTIs. I use it for prostatitis, checking semen. I use it a lot for respiratory infections that haven't turned a corner. I've used it for wound cultures. I've used it for nasal cultures. I had one patient who had had severe disabling headaches for a few months. She had been to the ER, they did imaging, everything was fine. We got her CBC back and her white count was elevated, which indicates a bacterial infection. So she didn't have other symptoms. So because these headaches were so bad, we did a nasal swab and we were able to identify some infection that was going on up there. And by treating the infection, these disabling headaches have resolved. So it can give you some great clues. The other thing I really like about that company, they do have really decent self-pay prices. So I think their cost now, if it hasn't changed, is $249. And it can be billed to insurance, but if you don't have insurance, 249 isn't bad because if you go, say you send a culture to the hospital, they charge you to run the culture, and then they charge you like per bug to identify it, and it can really add up. So if you're looking at the actual cost of it, I think it's a great investment because it takes guesswork out of things and you can really target your treatment. So microgen testing has been great. It's helped my family a lot and I've used it to help my practice. So, number 5, top 12 Mitchener family health hacks of 2024. This one comes from Gideon with an affirmation by Krista. Gideon said his number 1 is finally choosing to, quote, just sleeping when I need to and taking naps, not trying to put it off. So, he is one of these kids that's been afflicted by these nasty vector-borne infections and is going through some intensive treatment right now that makes him pretty tired, and there was this tendency to fight it because you wanna be productive, you don't wanna be, quote, unquote, "lazy," and, I mean, his dad and I could tell when he was tired that he was much worse off emotionally, but he didn't wanna be a 16-year-old who was sleeping all the time, and him finally deciding to honor his body, and when he feels fatigued, he does online school, so we've got flexibility with schedule, but when he feels fatigued, just taking a nap, he functions much better. For me, how that's looked, I don't really usually get to take naps, but sometimes at night, my body's just tired, and if I go lay down for a while, either take a quick nap or even just laying down to rest and honoring the fact that my body's fatigued, I can get up and do the rest of the things that need done. Yesterday was one of those nights, so I have 2 days a week when I fill pill boxes because we've got a lot of pill boxes, and it's really stressful, and I used to do it all on Sundays, but then I found myself hating Sundays because it takes over 2 hours, and it's just complex. I divided up, and last night after dinner, I'm like, "Oh, I gotta do these pillboxes, but I'm so tired." I went and laid down for like half hour, 45 minutes, wasted time. Sometimes I read a book, sometimes I sleep or listen to music. I just wasted time on my phone. But I got up and I felt stronger and I was able to do it and clean up from dinner and do all the other things I wanted to do without feeling overwhelmed or bitter. So resting, going to bed early, and just honoring your body when it's tired. Listen, Eric's number one health hack for 2024 and our number four was blood flow, increasing blood flow. Nitric oxide is really critical. You hear a lot about nitric oxide in the context of cardiovascular things because it increases blood flow to the heart. It can help with chest pain, but really, it can improve blood flow anywhere, especially with tiny blood vessels that innervate different parts of our body. So, affecting circulation can help pain. It can help temperature regulation. It can even help things like erectile dysfunction because that's a blood flow and a nitric oxide problem for a lot of people. A product that I really love that is available on our practices store website is Neo 40. It's been clinically proven to improve nitric oxide. It's fantastic. It's a chewable tablet. The recommended dosing is for a month as like a loading dose. You take one twice a day, and then you can go to once a day. But if you're someone who has a lot of circulatory problems, you may feel better continuing with the twice a day pattern. It's called Neo 40. Number 3 comes from my son, Matthew, who will be 22 here in 1, 2, 3 days. Matthew picked neurofeedback, which isn't new to our family, but it is a new practice for him to do it regularly. It's not something he's regularly done before. Now we do it, we try for twice a week, and he asks for it. I used to have to drag him there, and he's on the spectrum, and so part of it was a sensory thing. He didn't like the feel of the gel or the paste on his head and da da da. But he has hit it pretty hard, and I asked him why he chose that as his top health hack, and he said, "Makes me feel clearer, more active, and overall more productive in general." So if he's feeling foggy, if he's having a hard time focusing on a project, he's an artist. We do a little fine tuning with neurofeedback, and it's made a big difference in helping him feel, I think, in control. Number 2 top 10 health hack of 2024 is more robust antioxidant use. And this comes from my daughter, Isabel. And I asked her why she chose that. And she said, since we've really boosted the antioxidants, quote, I just feel like myself again, little by little, like chipping down a wall. So, what are antioxidants? They're nutrients that really help with reducing inflammation and what's called oxidative stress. I'll give you a handful of them and tell you what we're doing for her. It's something I had hit partially before, but not as aggressively, just because I try to be a minimalist when it comes to supplements. And even though some people would say we take a lot, I just want to make sure anything that I or anyone in my family is taking is actually serving a purpose. But when my son Matthew did Dr. Horowitz's Dapsone protocol earlier this year, the loading phase for that is doing all of these antioxidants first for like a month or so. And he has you do heavy doses of twice a day vitamin C, NAC, glutathione, vitamin E, NAD, alpha lipoic acid, and as well as like curcumin, which is anti inflammatory. And I noticed real improvements in Matthew just in that first phase, just by really pushing the antioxidants. He was calmer, he was more clear. So we've gone through with Isabel. I loaded her up twice a day for a period of time, and now we're doing all of those things just once a day to maintain. And it's made a big difference. And for a lot of people, the oral supplements are just fine. Some people have absorption problems, so you can look more at, no, I would say some liquids, or there's some topicals that are great for absorption. Sometimes IVs can give someone a real boost. But if you go to our website and our doctor supplement store link, I will put an antioxidant package in there that just identifies some of the antioxidants that we're talking about, if that's something you wanna look at and see if that can help you with helping your body naturally detoxify. The Mitchener family, there's a drum roll here, top number 1 health hack of 2024 has been the DNA testing that I love to talk about, which is through Intellic's DNA. Their website is ixxdna.com. I love this test, and I'm gonna give you some examples of why it's top health hack of 2024. So my son Daniel said he liked it because it gave a lot of direction about what's wrong, and we were able to plan things and tackle things in a more specific way. Before, it was like throwing pills at a dartboard and hoping something would stick. And he's right. I mean, they were educated guesses and decisions, but it's still, you're trying to figure out not just what is good for this condition, but this person's body. For Daniel, one of the big turnarounds was B12 shots because we learned that he can't absorb B12 in the gut, which cause improved mood and energy. He definitely, if are a little late on those, he feels it. He's more tired. Another thing that we found for him, there was one gene that had links to research recommending bumetanide, which is Bumex, a diuretic, for help with social skills because he struggles a little bit with that. So I decided to try it, not something I would have tried at all before. And in addition to helping him cognitively, he peed off 9 pounds in a week. Like, he was so full of fluid, and I mean, we knew he was puffy, we knew there was inflammation, but it has been fantastic. And that's something that without DNA testing, I would have never thought to do. I'm going to put my 26-year-old on a diuretic, but it's been fantastic. It's made it so much easier to draw his blood. He was always very puffy, and because of all of that fluid, his veins were really deep, and so he blood draws were very traumatic. He hated them. I hated doing them. Anyone else who ever tried to do him hated doing him. He was just a really terrible draw, but that's a little tidbit that came to us because of this testing that's gone a long way. And one of the happiest stories that's come from the DNA testing, which will probably make me cry talking about it, but my son, who's adopted and was adopted from the foster care system, a lot of mental health problems. And they told us, well, all of his delays are because of profound neglect when he was younger, that's the reason he's delayed. And his parents had substance abuse problems. And so it's tempting to think, well, he's just a product of like his parents' bad choices and neglect and then so much trauma. When he came to us, he was on ADD medicine and antipsychotics, and I don't even remember what else. And they would always say, "Oh, well, he didn't do well here, but his medication wasn't right. It was a medication problem." Well, we got him off most of his medication. All he's taking is something for sleep and some supplements. But I recently got back his DNA test, and he has a gene where even though he has normal blood levels of thyroid hormone, his body cannot convert T4, which is one thyroid hormone, to T3, which is the active form in his brain. So, what research has shown is people who have that impaired conversion of T4 to T3 in their brain are prone to a lot more anxiety. And he was, I mean, just constantly on edge, tense, that little things could set him off, and it's not hard to imagine why. We just attributed it to all of the awful trauma that he's had. But he's been taking a very low dose of T3. Brand name is Cytomel, Cytomel, generic name liothyronine. So he's just been taking 5 milligrams once a day in the morning is what we've started on. And he's a different kid. He's so calm when he's laying there watching his shows, watching Hulk for the umpteenth time. He's trying to make conversation with me. He asked me the other day, "Mom, who's your favorite villain and your favorite hero?" You can tell he's trying to connect more versus before it was just always asking questions that were looking for reassurance. Just this this edge. I've been so grateful. And what's better for a kid? A little bit of thyroid hormone or trying to manipulate their brain through antipsychotics and ADD meds that aren't really targeting the root cause of anything. So that's been a game changer. I've mentioned before these tests are expensive. And that's why when I first found out about them, I rarely offered them to patients because I was sensitive about the cost. Depending on which test you do, you're talking about a couple $1,000s, but I've since decided this is worth every penny because if you look at the suffering, I mean, just alone for figuring out the B12 and the T4 to T3 conversion, even though there were a lot of other things that we're working on too, the saved suffering, I mean, that is absolutely priceless. So DNA testing, it is an investment in your future. And I strongly believe that better tests, even though they're an upfront investment, will save you time and money in the long run because it takes the guesswork out. It's the best thing you can do for prevention because you will find out and expose what your genetic vulnerabilities are. Sometimes you know what they are, sometimes you don't. And you realize, oh, this explains what happened to grandpa or why my dad struggled with this. And here's what I can do to minimize and hopefully remove the risk and have a much healthier and happier future. Mitchener Countdown 2024, thank you for joining me. Thank you to my husband Eric and his love of countdowns for inspiring this episode. I hope you have a wonderful new year and remember to have hope because you were made to be whole. Have a podcast question or suggestion? Text or call us on the podcast info line at 330-439-0686. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to be notified when new episodes release. And remember, you were made to be whole.